Man, I gotta tell you guys something. There's this story in Islamic tradition that honestly blew my mind the first time I heard it. And it's not just some parable or metaphor, it's something Muslims around the world believe actually happened, something so miraculous that it reshaped the way they see prayer life in the entire universe. It's called Isra and Miraj, and it's basically the Prophet Muhammad's night journey and ascension to the heavens. Now, I've had conversations with scientists, mystics, astronauts, shamans, you name it, but this story is on another level. Imagine mixing the most profound spiritual experience with interdimensional travel, cosmic symbolism, and a face-to-face encounter with God himself. That's what we're talking about. So let's break it down. I want to tell it in detail, almost like I would on the podcast if we were unpacking it with an expert. We'll go step by step from the historical background to the insane details of the journey itself. The context: a year of sorrow. Before we even get into the ride, you got to understand the headspace the Prophet Muhammad was in. This wasn't happening at some random point in his life. It came at his lowest. Muslims actually call that period the year of sorrow. Here's what went down. His wife Khadija passed away. She wasn't just his spouse, she was his biggest supporter, the first person to believe in him, his partner in everything. Losing her was devastating. Then his uncle Abu Talib, the man who had protected him from the Quraysh tribe, also died. That left him exposed to enemies who wanted to silence him. And if that wasn't enough, when he went to Taif, a nearby city, to seek support, they rejected him brutally. Not just a polite no thanks, but humiliating him, mocking him, even having kids throw stones at him until he was bleeding. Think about that. You're grieving, vulnerable, and then the world just beats you down harder. That's the space he was in. And right there, in that darkest moment, comes this miracle, almost like the universe saying, don't lose hope. Look at what lies beyond. The arrival of Buraq. So here's where the story kicks off. One night, while the Prophet was near the Kaaba in Mecca, the angel Gabriel shows up. But he's not just there to deliver a message this time. He's got a mount with him, this creature called Buraq. Now, Buraq is described in Islamic tradition as this dazzling white-winged animal, bigger than a donkey, but smaller than a mule, and every stride of its legs would land as far as the eye could see. That's not just a horse, that's like some interdimensional spacecraft. So Muhammad gets on Buraq, and in what feels like an instant, he's transported from Mecca to Jerusalem. Now, if you know the geography, that's a trip of around 750 miles. In the 7th century on camelback, that would take weeks. But this wasn't normal travel. This was outside the laws of time and space as we know them. That part of the journey is called the Isra, the night journey. Masjid al-Aqsa, the gathering of prophets. When he arrives in Jerusalem, specifically at Masjid al-Aqsa, the farthest mosque, something incredible happens. Inside, waiting for him, are all the great prophets who came before: Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Joseph, David, Solomon, and many more. And guess what? Muhammad is asked to lead them all in prayer. Just pause on that for a second. Think about the symbolism, all the messengers of God throughout history, different nations, different times, different struggles, standing together with Muhammad as their leader. That's like the ultimate relay race of spiritual history. Every prophet carrying the torch, and now they're all acknowledging him as the final messenger. Man, that's heavy. The Miraj, ascending the heavens, but that was only part one. Because, from Jerusalem, the Prophet begins the second part of his journey, the Miraj or Ascension. This is where things get really wild. With Gabriel guiding him, Muhammad ascends through the heavens, layer after layer, dimension after dimension. And at each level he meets a different prophet. First heaven, Adam, the very first human, the father of us all. Second heaven, Jesus, Isa, and John the Baptist, Yahya, cousins, both prophets. Third heaven, Joseph, Yusuf, famous for his beauty and patience. Fourth heaven, Idris, Enoch, a prophet known for wisdom. Fifth heaven, Aaron, Harun, brother of Moses. Sixth heaven, Moses, Musa, and this is fascinating. Moses weeps, not out of envy, but because he realizes the followers of Muhammad will outnumber his own. Seventh heaven, Ibrahim, sitting by the Lote tree at the edge of creation itself. Each of these encounters wasn't random, it was symbolic. It showed Muhammad carrying on the legacy of all those before him, completing their mission beyond the Lote tree. And here's the most incredible part. At the very top, the Sidrat al-Muntaha, the Lote Tree of the furthest limit, Gabriel himself stops. Gabriel says something like, "This is my limit. If I go further, I'll be burned. You must continue alone." So Muhammad goes beyond alone, into the direct presence of God. Now think about that. The most powerful angel in creation can't pass this boundary, but a human, chosen, purified, goes. That says something about the potential of human beings, about how high we can ascend spiritually, the gift of prayer, and what happens in that divine presence. Muhammad is given a gift, not gold, not armies, not power, but prayer. At first, it was 50 daily prayer, but on his way back, Moses tells him, "Your people won't manage that, go back and ask for fewer." So Muhammad goes back and forth, asking God to reduce it, returning to Moses, then back again. Finally it's reduced to 5 daily prayer. But God says, they are 5, but they carry the reward of 50. That's profound. It means every prayer is not just a ritual, it's a cosmic connection, a direct link back to that moment in the returning to earth. After this, Muhammad is brought back down through the heavens, back to Jerusalem, back on Buraq, and finally to Mecca, all in a single night. And when he tells the Quraysh about it, most of them laugh at him. They say, "This is impossible. You expect us to believe you traveled all that way and up to the heavens in one night." But the faithful, especially Abu Bakr, don't hesitate. Abu Bakr says, if Muhammad said it, it must be true, and that's why he earns the title as Siddiq, the truthful one, the one who can. So here's the thing, man. You can hear the story of Isra Mi'raj, and just take it literally, like, okay, the Prophet Muhammad traveled miraculously to Jerusalem, went up through the heavens, met prophets, spoke to God, and came back in a night. And that's amazing on its own. But the deeper you look, the more you realize this isn't just a story about one man, it's a story about all of us. It's about the human condition, the struggles we go through, and the possibility that every human soul has this potential to rise beyond limits. Let's unpack that. The journey is a response to suffering. First off, remember the context. The prophet was crushed with grief, abandoned, humiliated. That's when this journey happened. And that says something really important. Sometimes when you're at your absolute lowest, that's when you're closest to a breakthrough. Like, think about people who've had near-death experiences, or folks who've gone through absolute despair, and out of that came a moment of awakening. That's what this was. Isra Mi'raj is like the universe's way of saying pain isn't the end. Beyond suffering is transcendence. Buraq, the symbol of speed and spirit. Now, let's talk about Buraq. On the surface, it's a winged creature that carried the prophet, but symbolically, it's like the soul itself. The description, each step, as far as the eye could see, that's not just about speed. That's about transcending physical limits. It's about the idea that the human spirit can leap across dimensions beyond time and space. Think about meditation, psychedelics, even flow states and sports moments where time disappears and you feel like you're somewhere else. Buraq is like the ultimate symbol of that, a ride for the soul to transcend its cage. Jerusalem, the meeting point of prophets. Why Jerusalem? Why not just ascend straight from Mecca? Because Jerusalem is the crossroads. It's the land tied to Abraham, Moses, Jesus. It's like the spiritual center where multiple traditions converge. By making Jerusalem the launching pad, the story is saying, this journey isn't just for one nation, it's universal. And then the prophet leading all the other prophets in prayer. That's like the seal of unity. It's saying this is one chain, one message, one God, one mission. That's huge. The 7 heavens, stages of human growth. Now, the Ascension meeting prophets in each heaven, that's wild, but it's also deeply symbolic. Some scholars and mystics see each heaven as representing a stage of the soul's journey. First heaven, Adam, birth, the beginning of human life. Second heaven, Jesus and John, purity, sacrifice, moral struggle. Third heaven, Joseph, beauty, temptation, and patience. Fourth heaven, Idris, wisdom, knowledge, reflection. Fifth heaven, Aaron, leadership, responsibility, guidance. Sixth heaven, Moses, law, justice, perseverance in the face of resistance. Seventh heaven, Abraham, ultimate surrender to God, pure faith. That's not just Muhammad's journey, that's all of ours. We started Adam life itself, and we climb learning, struggling, overcoming until we reach Abraham, complete trust and surrender. Beyond Gabriel, the human potential. Here's one of the most powerful parts for me, when Gabriel says, I can't go further. If I take one more step, I'll burn. Think about that. Gabriel, the greatest angel, a being of pure light, cannot pass a certain boundary. But a human being can. That flips the whole cosmic hierarchy on its head. It means the human soul, if purified and connected, can ascend higher than even the angels. That's a radical idea. It tells us your potential as a human being is way beyond what you think. The gift of prayer, a daily ascension. Now let's talk about the prayer thing. It wasn't some random ritual given to Muslims. It was given in the highest realm, in the presence of God, after this unimaginable journey. That means every time a Muslim prays, it's not just going through motions. It's like a mini miraj. It's plugging into that same connection 5 times a day. And think about the psychology of that. You're pulled down by work, by stress, by problems, then prayer pulls you back up. It's a reset, a realignment, a reminder of something bigger than bills and drama. That's why Muslims see prayer not as a burden but as a gift. It's not about God needing worship, it's about humans needing that connection. Modern parallels, psychedelics, astronauts, and near-death experiences. Here's where my Rogan brain kicks in. When I hear this story, I can't help but see parallels. Astronauts talk about the overview effect, seeing Earth from space, and realizing how small we are. People who take psychedelics report journeys into realms beyond time, meeting beings, feeling like they've touched God. Near-death experiencers describe tunnels, lights, and overwhelming peace. Now, I'm not saying Isra and Mi'raj is the same thing, but it's tapping into the same fundamental truth, that reality is way bigger than we think. That consciousness isn't limited to this meat suit we call a body, that there's something beyond the veil. For Muslims, Isra and Mi'raj isn't a drug trip or a hallucination. It's the real divinely guided journey of the Prophet. But the reason it resonates even with people outside Islam is because it speaks to a universal human longing, the desire to touch the infinite. Lessons for us today. So what do we do with this story today in 2025 in a world of iPhones, AI, and chaos? Here's what I take from it. A. Hope in hardship. Even when you're broken, like the Prophet was, there's another level waiting. Don't give up. Spiritual growth is a journey. Like the 7 heavens, we climb stage by stage. You don't get to Abraham's level overnight. Human potential is massive. Don't think you're just flesh and bone. You've got the capacity to ascend higher than angels. Prayer and mindfulness are portals. You don't need psychedelics or space travel to touch the infinite. You can do it in your living room, 5 times a day, if you know unity of humanity. The meeting of prophets reminds us, religions may differ, but the core message, truth, justice, surrender to God is one. The cosmic perspective. Here's how I'd sum it up. Isra and Mi'raj isn't just about Muhammad Sallallahu. It's about the human story. It's about despair turning into hope, limits turning into transcendence, and ritual turning into a living cosmic connection. It's saying the universe is bigger than your problems, God is closer than you think, and the journey upward, it's open to all of us.